Friends, good afternoon. I'm extremely happy to welcome you all to this side event, an event which has also been webcast by the Red International de Roche Humanos through its Facebook page and Twitter as shown on the screen. I'm extremely happy to welcome the three panelists. We have the pleasure of having Madam Simonovic with us, who is the current Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, whose mandate is to be renewed in this session. And on behalf of everyone here, we all hope that we would continue to have you as our Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women. Your Special Rapporteurship on Violence Against Women is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year with an incalculable value to women and humankind. She is also a former member of the CEDAW committee, among many other key functions that she holds. We have with us a powerful women's voice from Nepal, Madam Renu, who is the founder member and current secretary of the Feminist Dalit organization, popularly known in Nepal as FEDO, which works in about 58 districts out of the 80 districts in the country, and works on caste discrimination and gender-based discrimination. And FEDO works for the protection and promotion of human rights and justice for Dalit women. She looks over the issues of Dalit women's political participation, domestic violence and equality. She holds a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's in the same subject from the same university. Our third speaker on my right is Madam Abirami Jotheeswaran from India, who works for the National Dalit Movement for Justice, one of the wings of the National Campaign for Dalit Human Rights in India, based in New Delhi, working throughout the country. She has been associated with them from December 2005 and involved in a number of issues challenging the implementation of the Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act, and working throughout the country to create a campaign across the country for its amendment in the year 2015, with over 500 organizations that joined her and her team in the said campaign. She is a postgraduate in human rights with very strong competencies in computer science, something that usually the human rights world does not see. Friends, I've been told that this is to be a participatory session. There's not going to be much that the chair would like to say at this stage. But the participation is not only from the floor, the participation is also from on the digital arena with a number of people who are participating in the process. And therefore, I will ask our speakers to start with their opening comments. And then there are two speakers from the floor who will join us. And then the House will be open for your statements from the floor and discussions from the floor. We hope we will be able to at least dedicate half an hour minimum for a discussion on the subject. We come at a time when a number of women across countries which are affected by caste discrimination, in spite of the laws and the mechanisms that prevail in those respective states, are forced to come to the United Nations. We are not here to shame any of the countries where the practice of caste-based discrimination continues, but we are here to call upon the United Nations to play its role to ensure that justice is felt by the women who approach the various mechanisms of the United Nations. These are the few words that I would like to say at this point in time, and pay tribute to the number of Dalit women in the various countries who are not represented here, where they continue to fight, and continue to fight within the community, continue to fight from outside the community. Having said this, let me first invite our Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women for her opening remarks.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking you for inviting me as United Nations Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, its causes and consequences to participate at this important panel, and to recall that last year I have also participated at similar panel organized on Dalit women and their specific situation. After that meeting, I had opportunity to conduct country visit to Nepal and to meet many Dalit women and many NGOs, also Dalit men that explained their situation with respect to a specific situation in Nepal. As a special rapporteur on violence against women, its causes and consequences, this mandate is this year, as was mentioned by you, Mr. Chairperson, is celebrating its 25th anniversary. And celebration is always a time to look back on achievements, but also to look at challenges and ways forward. So for preparation also of this mandate, I was looking in previous reports of all previous special rapporteurs and their recommendations related to various topics, including indigenous women, Dalit women, different women that are facing intersectional discrimination, and they should be specifically addressed by women's human rights agenda and mechanisms that we have to focus on gaps and responsibilities of the government related to prevention of such violence and elimination of different forms of violence. Let me mention that with respect to my country visit to Nepal, I will present this report to Human Rights Council on 27th. Report is already out, it is available, and I will not go into details of that report, but I will mention that there is legislative progress with respect to recognition of status of Dalit women. There are many measures that are now in laws, including recognition also in the Constitution, specifically violence against women as constitutional principle, what is extremely progressive. But on the other hand, there is a huge implementation gap, and with respect to this gap, there is a process that is really needed to focus on implementation and to see how to look into concrete cases. I was also trying to see through explanation of concrete cases of different forms of violence against women related to Dalit women and children, what are specificities, how they should be addressed by my mandate and also other mechanisms. I was also lucky to visit country after the CEDAW committee reporting process, and now I'm trying to have good cooperation with the CEDAW committee. It was already mentioned that I was previously CEDAW committee member, so I am familiar with mechanisms that could be used under different UN mechanisms available. And that would be also my suggestion for all of you trying to focus on concrete situations and concrete problems in different countries. To use different mechanisms, to use this mandate with respect to possibility to send specific communications related to concrete cases on violence against women and girls, but also to use CEDAW committee and reporting process, petitions that are available under option protocol if respective country did ratify the option protocol. If this is the case, then inquiries could also be possible. And with this type of use, we are really trying to see how to follow up, because now I'm looking into specific recommendations that this mandate is putting forward as recommendations to the government, but recommendations that could be also used by civil society and independent human rights institutions to advocate for specific changes. It is extremely important to look now into concrete results, into implementation side, because now, and for example, in a report related to Nepal, I'm putting forward recommendations in which I'm advocating for specific national action plan on violence against Dalit women. Then it would be important to raise those recommendations at the national level, to start conversation and dialogue with the government to see how this could be accomplished. I'm also advocating, for example, specific national action plan with respect to indigenous women in Canada, because they also face specific problems that should be addressed by specific measures, and at the UN level we do see specific measures that are needed, like temporary special measures, like specific education, advocacy, or maybe specific shelters and so on that are needed in such situations. So I hope that recommendations are going to be used at the national level by NGOs, by women's NGOs, by human rights institutions, by UN agencies that are also in the country. Because in many countries, for example in Nepal, there is a big UN presence. There is a UN Women, Office of the High Commissioner, UNFPA, in other agencies. And those agencies also have different programs that are supporting the government in upholding human rights in general, and also women's rights and policies related to elimination of discrimination and violence against women. For example, when I was in Nepal, I have seen that the General Recommendation number 35 on gender-based violence against women that was adopted by CEDAW committee, but also with participation of my mandate, was not really used. And this new general recommendation is giving very specific roadmap, what is needed in this area of prevention of violence, services that are needed, prosecution of perpetrators, coordinated link of those that are acting in cases of violence against women. So I am advocating now better use and implementation of instruments like this new general recommendation 35. I hope that this is also going to be a learning process for my mandate, because every time when we have women NGOs coming from different countries and giving us possibility to listen specific stories, to see how a mandate was used or how a mandate could be used in different contexts of different countries, then it is giving us possibilities really to think how we can do our work under respective mandates better. And I hope that this is going to be that type of exchange and another learning process. I am really looking forward to listening to your voices and your questions, but also comments related to work of my mandate.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for your visit to Nepal and your comment particularly on the implementation gap. This is something that all of us are deeply concerned about. On the need for follow-up, this is also something that will be coming up in the concrete presentations that the others are going to present. And for your proposal for a national plan of action on violence against Dalit women that you're going to propose in the case of Nepal. And the increased call for UN agencies in the respective countries to ensure that they play their role. And I do hope that the national human rights institutions, which also exist in these respective countries, are listening to you because they are those on the ground who can actually oversee what is happening and ensure that the governments come closer to many of your recommendations. I thank you, ma'am. I now call upon Renu from Nepal to make her presentation.
Thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, Nepal. Respected panelists. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share the issue of the Dalit women who are facing the multiple discrimination in Nepal. Thank you for this opportunity once again. Dalit women are historically facing the multiple obstacles discrimination. Socially, culturally, economically, and politically, they are excluded and they are oppressed in our society. Dalit women are facing the more than other discriminations. As a being a Dalit woman, they are facing the untouchability. As a being a Dalit, they are a woman, they are facing the gender-based discrimination. As a being a woman, they are facing the multiple discrimination in our country. Untouchability and caste-based discriminations considered as a major barriers for the Dalit women who are depressed and oppressed in our society, economically, socially, and culturally, politically. Dalit women face, I already mentioned that Dalit women face multiple discrimination because they are a Dalit, because they are a woman, because they are a Dalit woman. The forms of discrimination is the various, which is not facing the other women, facing by the Dalit women. Class, caste, gender is the major problem for Dalit women who are facing multiple of the discrimination in every day in our society. Intercaste marriage is the equally depressed by the Dalit women, because Dalit girls married with the non-Dalits, it's a very big problem in our society. Similarly, child marriage is high among the Dalits community, because within the our legal provision is the 20 years, but before the 20 years, the child marriage is a very highly encouraged in our community. It is a big problem. Basically, Dalit girls are facing the malnutrition, the reproductive health problems, other kinds of health problems they are facing after the child marriage, and trafficking, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, torture, rape, those kinds of problems and issues faced by the Dalit women, because other women are less faced those kinds of things, because Dalit women are as a Dalit women, they are facing more violence in our community. And if you another is nowadays it increase the unsafe migration is the big problem, because due to the poverty, the many Dalit women are migrate from their hometown, and unsafely they are migrate, and they are not safe. Those areas where they go, they are not safe, and they are not trained, they are not skilled, they doesn't have a skill for the migrations, but they were there, but they facing lots of problem. When they return back the country, they have a baby, they are mentally tortured, they are the physically harassment. Those things are increased day by day. This is a big challenge for us. Equally, the gender-based violence and domestic violence is high among the Dalit community, because Dalit family is poor. Dalit male are not supported for Dalit. This is one of the cause also, because Dalit women socially they are discriminated. They are similarly they are discriminated from the other female, but same they are discriminated by their family, by their counter partner. This is a problem which we are facing in our country, and domestic violence is high among the Dalit community and gender-based violence. And I would like to share here the Dalit women are occupied 7% of the total population in our country. It's a big population in our country, but within the women there is a 20% of population occupied by the Dalit women, because but they are not, they doesn't have any access to government mechanism. They doesn't have any access to human rights and justice. They are far behind from the human rights and justice, because many Dalit women are facing the rape and killed. Recently we have done one study, according to the study conducted by FEDO, it has been found that the total incident of rape is 21% of the victims were from the Dalit community. This is a 10-month data which we done one by the FEDO. And 80% Dalit girls and women killed by after rape. This is a big challenge which we face. But those things are happening in our country, but lack of the legal provision, lack of the justice, they are far behind from the justice and legal justice. And they are not, if they go to the legal police and for the justice, the case is not registered immediately. This is a lack, and many Dalits are try to solve the those cases within the community. The police and other social actors emphasize to solve and those cases within the community, and they give some financial benefit for the Dalit victims, and they doesn't want to vote for the police. There's such kinds of things happening. I would like to request Madam, who are already visited our organization and share it is our opportunity that time we share our things within our special rapporteur. We had a report I would like to share later with you, Madam, and definitely we have somehow we have a positive laws, we have constitutions, we have a untouchability act, side by side we have a domestic violence act. lack of the implementation, it is not, victims are not getting the justice. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Renu. Sorry for having to indicate I'm also being monitored, so I need to respond to my monitors. I also want to mention one word here about the organization that Renu belongs to. She belongs to an organization that empowers women parliamentarians of our country. And some of us have witnessed vis-a-vis old male parliamentarians from India, and we found them really militant. And I feel proud as an Indian to acknowledge Fedo's work in empowering women parliamentarians from our country. And that is what, if they can do it to parliamentarians, you can imagine the amount of work they do in the community. Thank you very much, Renu, for all that you pointed out. I would now request Abirami to move.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my privilege to be here as a Dalit woman. I'm representing the voice of the more than 300 million community who is historically oppressed in India. As India, we have lots of legal measures, as we are very well known for that. But what is the implementation? That is the question. We have various measures, legal measures, protective measures, but still, as per the government data, if you see, in 2016, that is the last data the government has given regarding the violence against Dalit, we can able to see the increase. More than 25% of the cases has been increased over the last 1 decade. So majority of the cases are related to violence against Dalit women. If you see, on an average, 7 Dalit women are raped in a day, which has been doubled over the past 1 decade. If you see the assault of the Dalit women, 9 Dalit women are assaulted every day. This is all reported, just reported cases. It's not from the ground or something, it's only the reported cases which as police has taken an action and government has made it as is accountable to everybody. So this is the situation where the Dalit women, and I feel it's my responsibility. As I work in National Dalit Movement for Justice, I represent today as National Dalit Movement for Justice. You must have found the brochures outside. It's an organization in order to ensure and improve access to justice. It has been working in across 20 states in India. As a member of this organization, I undertake awareness generations to the community leaders as well as for Dalit human rights defenders. Apart from this, we also monitor Dalit atrocities and undertake legal intervention. We engage with various officials, including police, judiciary, parliamentarians at various levels to ensure access to justice for Dalits. Apart from this, we also form advocate groups, because as we all know, the conviction rate is very less in India. The violences are increasing in one level, and the state impunity is also alarming. It's lead to less number of conviction related to atrocity cases. So in order to handle that situation, we are also identifying sensitive advocates and training them, improving their skills, and ensure that they intervene in the special court so that the access to justice has been rendered to the Dalit victims and survivors. It's not only difficult in increasing for the community, but also for the Dalit human rights defenders. It has been increasing a lot, but still, as a Dalit human rights defenders, we are also fighting, and today I am standing in front of you to raise the voice of our community. So and various campaigns we have working together, and we have able to make visit, represent, intervene in various UN bodies. So with this background, I would like to read out the recommendation which I would like, so that I believe when I go back to my country, these recommendations will strengthen my work and also increase the accountability of both domestic as well as international mechanisms. So my first appeal to the Indian government to prevent all forms of caste-based discrimination and violence against the entire Dalit community, including women, men, children, to all. And also the effective implement the various legislation. We have ample of legislations. Bonded labor, manual scavenging, which affect most of the Dalits are forced to do the work. So we also appeal to that. We appeal to the international bodies to support and extend solidarity to end caste-based discrimination, and also to raise the issue at different platforms, including all relevant UN special procedures to eliminate the caste-based discrimination. We appeal to UN fora to adopt UN principle and guidelines on dissent and work-based discrimination in the daily engagement in order to ensure equality and justice. We also demand to constitute fact-finding missions, special rapporteurs, visit to caste-affected countries. It's not only India, as we have heard from our colleague Nepal and Bangladesh. So all the caste-related affected countries to visit and to make a special recommendation for that. So this is, friends, this is to eliminate the caste-based discrimination is not the agenda of only the Dalit community. It is the responsibility of all. It's not only for India, or it's not only for Pakistan, it's not only for Nepal or Bangladesh. It's for global cause and a global issue. So, since such practices against Dalit women amount to all of us using our dignity. It's not only the Dalit women are using their dignity because of the violence, it's for all. So I would like to end by saying, Dalit rights are human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Abirami, for that powerful slogan at the end, Dalit rights are human rights. She comes from an organization which has done something which all of you should go to their website and see. They have created an online monitoring and tracking mechanism to be able to monitor all atrocities across the country. This has been very carefully done over experience of many years of work that they have patiently put in. And it's important that you move to that particular website and come to know of it. Many of us are trying to remodel that in our own respective work, and I think it's important for all of us to do that. We might be able to use it in different places. I also want to invite you to visit the website of the IDSN. It is extremely important that you visit the website of the IDSN to be able to know what an organization without ECOSOC status can achieve within the United Nations. I think we could have a competition and then an IDSN with no ECOSOC status. You could see the achievements that have been there from 98 onwards, the various patient hard steps that IDSN and all partners in various countries together with our supporters in various countries where they have Dalit solidarity networks have been able to achieve. Having appealed to that, may I now invite Veena Parikh from the floor, who needs introduction. She is the General Secretary of the National Campaign for Dalit Human Rights, an umbrella body within the country which hosts a number of smaller platforms which also work with hundreds of groups but on different thematic areas. And Veena is with us. Veena was already here because she was here for the Executive Committee of the International Dalit Solidarity Network, and therefore I invite Veena with her comments on the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I would not repeat what my two colleagues and sisters have already mentioned, but I would like to reiterate that there has been absolute limited access to Dalit women to public services, water and sanitation. Water becoming almost extinct now. You can see that there is really a lot of issues in cities like Chennai in India where water is becoming a real problem. But this has been affecting the community since ages. It is the women from these communities that are actually engaged in manual scavenging and cleaning and sanitation that have no protection and continue to face the brunt of caste-based discrimination. Most of these women are absent from decision making on public administrative bodies. There is affirmative action at the local governance level. However, they're only nominal candidates and do not have any rights, so as to speak, to exercise their power. There has been a lot of economic violence as a result of the physical violence, which means they are taken off of their livelihood options, and their bodies are used to almost used for the backlash violence that happens as a result of this. There's about 22,549 women who have been raped from 2001 to 2015. In order to implement the Prevention of Atrocities Act and the policies in the country, there has to be sufficient budgetary allocations. That is not there. We need to remember that in India, specific to India, but this is across the 5 countries in South Asia, for Dalit women, there are no provisions within the budgetary allocations. Having said that, in India, they have more money allocated for the protection of cows than to address the violence that is happening to Dalit women. That is from the recent budget, 1920 budget, that the present government that has just been elected in their previous budget before the elections actually had about 700 odd crores in rupees for cow protection, but about 400 odd crores for addressing violence against Dalit women. So you can see where the priorities lie. In terms of suggestion, I think that we need to continue to build assets for Dalit women, that how Dalit women can have assets in their name, therefore ownership of property, land should be on the name of Dalit women. Policies on discrimination and substantive equality should ensure that there are women part of decision-making bodies from the panchayat level up to the national government, which is very difficult, I think. And one issue that is very close to my heart continues to be manual scavenging. A son or a daughter of manual scavenging still today continues to not have access to school education. So we have to see how we can converge different policies, the right to education policy, budgetary allocations, and the Manual Scavenging Act, how we can converge to have effective implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Beena, thank you for that very powerful presentation and reminding me as an Indian also about the 700 crores versus the 400 crores. And this was in 2019 before the elections. After the elections, I do not know how many times the 700 crores would get multiplied in our country. I think it is important to recall after listening to these 3 women who are here that the Dalit women are not only working within the community, but Dalit women are also agents of change in the respective countries where they work in union with other civil society organizations. So they collaborate with a variety of other civil society organizations on a variety of fields, and I think it is important to recall that and not get an impression that it is an inward-looking Dalit women group, but very external group which offers solidarity to persons with disabilities, offers solidarity to sexual minorities, etc., in different parts of their respective countries. Having said this, may I invite one more intervention from the floor from Renu, from one part of India closer to Bangladesh, with a lot of experience of having also worked in Bangladesh earlier. I somehow wanted to bring Bangladesh inside, so.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you, panel, for your discussion. We have heard about how Dalit women are being ostracized and have to face a lot of roadblocks to overcome their issues. amidst of that, we have Dalit woman from India to win the Equator Prize in 2019, and I'm going to share this story with you. The Dalit women of Deccan Development Society Sanghas have bagged the most coveted UN awards, the Equator Prize for 2019. Since its inception in 2002, out of the total 223 awards, only 9 awards have come to India so far. It is a matter of great pride for our global society that the non-literate, Dalit, disprivileged and highly marginalized women of our country to receive this award, and are the only Indian group to have done so far. The Equator cites the Dalit woman as an outstanding example of local nature-based solution to climate change and sustainable development. This year, a total of 847 nominations have been received from 127 countries all over the world. Of them, only 20 were given these prestigious awards. The Dalit women of DSS Sangam have the honor to bring among these top 20. Over the last 30 years, in their own, the unsung manner, about 5,000 Dalit women of India have made significant contribution towards environment, combating climate change, food and nutritional security, food security, providing Mother Nature with lush green cover of forest, establishing iconic village, level indigenous seed banks, and many more. The UNDP Equator Prize comes as a crowning glory for all their efforts. We have a picture here, you can see on the screen, and I'm going to just briefly navigate about the individual profile of this woman, and quickly who are they and how they are, and what they have done. In Andhra Pradesh, we call this woman Amma, mother, because of their highly knowledgeable, learning and the way they manage their community. So we have like a few of the profiles I'm going to share, and you will be very happy to hear about them. It's like we have Masinagri Rathanamma, the leader of Women Sangha, who was the first Dalit woman from rural India to receive the Vriksha Mitra Award from Government of India way back in 1993. We have Tulija Amma from Andhra, who carried out the revolutionary community design and community controlled public distribution services, which is around 5,300 acres of village, desert type land, and converted into millet cultivation, thus ensuring food security and halted desertification. We have Sunanda Amma, who has turned a lifeless hillock, a 90-acre of land, into lush green forest, planting over more than 200,000 trees to combat climate change. So these are the startling examples of how an ecologically conscious woman of India or other parts of the world can transcend her marginalization, inequity, gender and economic deprivation to become almost national and international icon. With this word, I'd like to.
Thank you, Red. So focusing on a completely different area of achievements of Dalit women, and we are not there only to sing our miseries. We are also there to play our role in development and the concrete examples that were provided by you. I think it's important to recall before we open the house for participating in the discussion, to recall that Dalit women from the countries who are present here or the countries who are not present here have continuously used various special procedures whenever they visited, or when they were not on official visits. Continuous communications were sent to various special procedures, and the special procedures always took that extra step of trying to stretch their mandate to be able to bring within their envelope a number of issues that were being faced by Dalit women in particular. Also the treaty bodies, and this is from 1997 onwards, and I think it is important to recall that we don't come here to say that nothing has happened. A lot has happened, and a lot of creativity has come on the part of our international independent experts, as well as in the UPR process. A lot of has happened within the UPR process. When within the SDGs, though official recognition is not there, a large number of Dalit activists in particular and Dalit women in particular are also there to continuously raise their voice and say, we will not let go of this mandate without us being included in your official objectives. So I think this is the participation that Dalit women have shown on one side within their countries, but also outside the country, ensuring that all mechanisms. But will the mechanisms be able to reach those hands that need them? how will the international experts and the UN human rights system be able to stretch itself to be able to be felt within our respective countries? How will our own countries, how will our national human rights institutions be there to be able to reach out to us is the question before us. Having said this, can I open the floor for comments from the floor? I kindly request people just to introduce who they are, from where they are, and then to go ahead with the question. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm Antara Singh, Second Secretary from the Permanent Mission of Nepal. And first, I would like to thank you for the invitation for today's program. It's such an honor and pleasure to hear from Madam Dubravka Simonovic, whom we had the honor of having a visit last year in 2018. And through her reports, we are very glad that we are getting ideas for reforms, further reforms. Nepal is one of the countries that is aiming at bringing lots of changes through legislation, as was mentioned, especially after our new constitution in 2015, and as a series of which we also engaged in 2018 last year in third hearing. And through that, we are continuously, constructively been engaging to bring a massive overhaul of not just the legislation, but including the bottom-up approach in our federalization process. So we are very happy to have thriving civil society partners whose representation here, Madam Sijapati, she spoke very articulately. We are proud of our civil society's work in our country, and we hope to further, have this constructive partnership in the days to come. And thank you also to the moderator, Mr. Tiphagne, if I pronounced correctly, and Madam Jotheeswaran, very articulate presentations, and these ideas will further help for Nepal in the days to come. Lastly, I'd like to say that we look forward to our engagement in the Human Rights Council on the report this week, and also that this momentum will continue for Nepal, and we expect the support and this coordination from all of you also in the days to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here. Nepal is very, very special to us for having publicly acknowledged the issue of caste-based discrimination in South Asia. You're one of the countries which have come forward to work very closely with the Office of the High Commission, and we are proud of you and proud that you are proud of your own civil society, and that gives us strength, because this is something where we have to work in partnership, and that is a beautiful example that you have set. Thank you. Anybody else who wants to take the floor? Yes, sir.
I'm rather interested to try and understand a little bit more about the Dalit problem. And the question would be that if Dalit women are discriminated against on a scale of 0 to 10, at a level 10, to what extent on a 0 to 10 are Dalit men discriminated against? And as a result, do the men feel any antagonism towards their women, or are they more or less trying to work on a team basis to stop this?
Thank you so much for your question. Actually, Dalit women are facing the multiple, already I mentioned before my presentations, that the multiple of discrimination, because they are Dalit. As a Dalit is a community who are untouchable, who are treated as impure in our society. They are impure since thousands of years in our mostly South Asia. We are facing the untouchability based on our occupations, based on our oath. We are facing the discrimination, untouchability in our society. Dalit women are facing the violence, which is not facing the men, because Dalit women are facing, as a woman, they are facing the caste-based discrimination. As being a Dalit woman, they are facing the gender-based discriminations. Based on the gender-based discrimination, they are facing lots of problem, exploitations, violence, rape, torture, verbal, physical, many torture, many types of violence and discrimination they are facing. As a man, they are facing only discrimination based on their caste.
Renu, the question now, since you have come to that, he wants you to rate, and I think it will be beautiful for you to say, if on a grade from 1 to 10, Dalit women face 10 atrocities. The answer that he wants is, what are the atrocities that men face on that scale? I don't even want to open my mouth more than this.
Please, you can.
No, I should not. I want it from you.
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, there are more violences on, it's a fully on Dalit community, we can say. It's nothing to do like discrimination, women, men, but women are targeted more in order to insult the women, men, as well as to take revenge about the Dalit men. So it is an additional burden on the women. So it is not only now, it's a trend like we could able to see increasing in Dalit women rapes is because to take revenge of the men. So whenever they assert their rights, like registering the FIR, going to the police station if there is any land dispute, and whenever they want to fight for their rights, then the Dalit women's body are used to in order to teach them a lesson to the community. So we can see there are number of murders for men and also for children, but when we come to the women, it's like mostly on the to take revenge of it. So the number of cases.
Yeah, just quickly, I think it's unfair to give a rating because the community as a whole faces discrimination and violence, and I totally endorse what Abirami has just said. So it would be unfair because if you look at the National Crime Records Bureau, on an average there's about 45,000 cases registered on the community as a whole. So that's a huge number of cases.
Anybody else from the floor? Yes, sir.
First, I would like to convey my heartfelt appreciation to all the panelists and their interventionists from the floor. Thank you for your inputs and a really good seminar. My question would be, as one of the panelists has stated, India has a large amount of laws. We don't require more laws. We need more enforcement. But on top of that, what I feel, and this is true specifically for India, I'm not that knowledgeable on the scenario in Nepal, would be to teach people or to raise awareness, like what you said, Dalit rights are human rights. So the main problem that stems from is that the Indian people do not see Dalits as humans, or they see them as subpar. So what I believe the real thing that we should be going for is increasing awareness and making sure that the people have an upliftment, that they are not left to only manual scavenging, that they are given vocational training so that they can better themselves. So my question would be, how much importance has your organization given to this aspect, and what exactly do you do for this, and what exactly do you plan to do in the future within this aspect? And another point would be, with the re-election of this present incumbent, do you think that this point of increasing awareness between people is even more important? Because with this present incumbent, you cannot expect that much help from the government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for one more question, and also the things that you captured, Dalit rights or human rights. It's amazing. Yeah, as you said, we have been working to increase awareness among the Dalit community first, because and also we are giving various trainings, and also we are working on economic developments, like getting the schemes and other kind of thing as a economic independence. This is very much important because most of the people are being targeted because of their economic poverty and other kind of things. So we have been with, we have various wings which work for economic rights also. So we ensure the schemes, scholarship, so that as much as them, they are making themselves economically strong enough. The sensitization of the non-Dalits. That is the thing, but it's very a difficult task because we ourselves we have been working for more than 20-25 years. We could able to now only to some extent assertion are coming among our community because of the legal awareness and other training, and also it relates us to that cheaper labor thing. So that is the thing that it's difficult for to engage with non-Dalit to understand, to make them understand the awareness on these issues. So I feel it's still a challenge and it will take some more decades to make it. Thank you.
Last one question, if there is. Yes, sir. I forgot to repeat, but people forgot it, so I'm asking you, can you introduce yourself if you don't mind? I forgot to ask. I presume you are a law student?
No, actually I'm a student of international relations.
Right. Student.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. I am Santosh Apte from India. My question is to know more about whatever we have said. This caste system, does it have any relation with religion? And then how to address that if some caste, if privileged caste are responsible for doing it and they are occupying the main positions, which I am sorry but failed to hear, so maybe because I was late. So that is the question. Thank you.
Yeah, as you said, you are from Maharashtra. You know very well the reality of India. Caste, religion plays a critical role for, the Manusmriti from where the caste system evolves. So it is well to do with the religion, and that's what the women, the women are treated in such a way because still, whatever the constitution we have in India, we never give value for that. We always, which we have not seen, which we have not read, but it is like our cultural practices, it's going on, passing on the ball to the other. So it's how it plays, it grows up, but the religion plays a critical role, and we know very well, even our Baba Saheb Ambedkar ji has been said, conversion is one of the way to annihilate caste system and to get dignity among the Dalits. So with this,
Thank you. The Indianness of this, I don't know how many of you got it. The moment that speaker spoke, the panelist immediately was able to identify which state, and that is caste, and that is India. And you can try to hide anything, but it cannot between Indians, and that is what is most important here. May I invite the Special Rapporteur for her closing remarks.
Thank you. Let me mention that in many countries I have seen this idea that yes, we have good laws, we need only implementation. Implementation in general is a problem, but in this area of prevention of violence against women and gender-based violence, laws are usually not sufficiently integrating and incorporating human rights norms adopted here at United Nations and also at regional level. We have regional treaties. Because here it is important to see that it is not sufficient to adopt constitution and let's say law on domestic violence or law on violence against women. This law should be connected with criminal procedure law and criminal law that is dealing with rape cases, with sexual violence against women. So we have to see how then also law that is dealing with shelters, social services, how all those laws are coming together, and then how all that are implementing those laws are cooperating in cases of violence against women. So for that reason, challenges are different when we are addressing violence against women. In area of prevention, education is extremely important. We need to start from early ages if we want to address stereotypes, prejudices. Even if there is a new law, that law would not be easily implemented if there is not sufficient education of general population, but also of specific agencies and actors that are implementing that law. In many countries that I have visited, there is specific problem with police and education of police forces. Basically, they are not sufficiently trained to act properly in cases of domestic violence against women. In many countries, there is double arrest, double protection orders. There is no clear understanding who is perpetrator and who is victim. The same goes for judiciary. We are seeing all over the world cases of rape in which rape is not properly prosecuted, and there are no decisions that are sufficiently sentencing perpetrators. Recently in European states, you have seen women going on the streets protesting against court cases dealing with rape. So it is a general problem in different parts of the world. And now let me just mention, because I was in Nepal and I was having meetings with Nepali women, but also men were present there. And basically they supported this movement related to elimination of violence against women, although they are also discriminated. They have supported application of all those norms that are addressing this intersectional discrimination related to women. And here I have also proposed better collection of data, because through data we are going to see what are those differences that you are trying to see through numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to first apologize to the people who are entering the room. We were given the room slightly late, so please, we understand your anxiety and we want to respect that. We are finishing. I want to thank all of you for having been here, the panelists for having been here, IMADR for hosting this side event, and all the co-sponsors who have come forward to make sure that even though we may not be able to officially work with ECOSOC status, there are people to hold our hands to ensure that we play our role where we have to play within the ambit of the United Nations.